Harford County's had high school wrestling for more than 60 years. And in that time, we have never had a Division I All-American. And Mathew was the first, and he also set the record for the most pins in the least amount of time in the national championship, and the second most pins in wrestling competition in the history of the wrestling at the United States Naval Academy.
How old were you, and when did you get started in wrestling?
I was 5, 6, turning 6 years old. My mom kept forgetting basketball sign-ups, so my dad didn't want me just, I guess, hanging around in the streets or whatever, so he was like, well, put him in something. My dad didn't know what wrestling was either, so mom was like, well, what about wrestling? My dad's thinking, WWE, and so she signs me up for it, and then the next year my parents asked me, do I want to keep wrestling or do I want to switch over to basketball, because my older brother was playing basketball, and I decided to stick with wrestling.
Miller's dream of wrestling for Navy began a few years later, when he went to a wrestling camp at the Academy, led by head coach Bruce Burnett. Fast forward to high school, where Miller racked up impressive numbers at John Carroll. 205 wins, a couple of state titles, and the Patriots' first ever national title. Then, after a year at the Naval Academy Prep School, Miller continued on to Annapolis. He made it through plebe year, which is grueling enough even without being a Division I athlete, and by his second year, Miller's NCAA wrestling career took off.
My sophomore year, I opened up my schedule a little bit, so I ended up starting to work out with my coach Lloyd Rogers a lot from that point. Sophomore year, I ended up making it to round of 12, but that was, after that year, that's when I was like, wow, I can actually, be on top of the podium come the following year. I think it took me a bit of my freshman year, half of my sophomore year, to actually start believing in myself. I could actually, win a national title / All-American. So at the end of my sophomore year, I'm feeling really good about myself. I'm like, yeah, next year's going to be my year. And then during practice, I'm wrestling with Lloyd, and he goes to sweep out my leg and tear my ACL. So that completely got rid of my junior year.
After a lot of rehab and bumping up a weight class to 184, Miller returned to the mat for his senior year, turning in his best season yet at 29-7. And despite an alphabet soup of ligament damage in his knee, Miller qualified as the number 9 seed at the NCAA tournament. So what happened at the tournament this year?
So feeling sorry for myself. All my injuries, I was taping it and everything, and taping my knee. I had a torn LCL, MCL, torn UCL. Season's kind of grueling. So I was feeling sorry for myself at that point. First match, Steven Schneider from Binghamton ends up dislocating my pinky. So I'm feeling even more sorry for myself. I wrestle Nolan Boyd, and then I lose. And then that's a kid that I beat earlier in the year. And I just go, wow, this is like the last chance I have at this. And that moment, I talked to Dr. Lombardo. He's our team doctor. They're like, do you want to continue taping your arm and knee? And I was just like,
and your pinky?
Yeah, I was just like, no, I think I'll be good. So I pushed through the pain for the last 2 days, and just tried to wrestle. Didn't really think about an outcome. Just went out there, wrestled, did what I did best.
He ended up placing 5th, and after his final match, the crowd at Madison Square Garden gave Miller a standing ovation when he walked off the mat.
Honestly, it's amazing. The amount of respect these people have. For the service members and everything, it was incredible.
In wrestling, the top 8 finishers in each weight class are named All-Americans. So with his 5th place finish, Miller becomes the first wrestling All-American from Harford County.